With the 5th pick in the 2001 NBA draft,
I'm going to Golden State. I'm going to Golden State.
Jason Anthony Richardson Sr., born January 30th, 1981. Jason Richardson is one of those players where if you watch basketball in the early 2000s, you probably remember him being a bigger star than his resume says he was. Richardson was one of the most athletic players in basketball, won back-to-back slam dunk contests, could jump out the gym, and gave the Warriors a player worth watching during some bad years. But when you go through his career, something is missing. Richardson played 14 seasons and never made an all-star team, never made All-NBA, never won a major regular season award, and never won a championship. That's surprising for a player selected 5th overall, who at his peak averaged over 23 points, nearly 6 rebounds, and shot close to 40% from 3. In 05-06, Richardson looked like he was becoming the star Golden State drafted him to be, regarded as one of the better shooting guards in the league. Yet even that wasn't enough to make him an all-star. Jason Richardson wasn't a bust. He was a very good NBA player, a legitimate scorer, and part of one of the most memorable playoff upsets ever. But his athleticism sometimes made him seem like more of a star than he actually was, while playing in an era loaded with elite perimeter talent made standing out even harder. For a top 5 pick with his physical gifts, many feel Richardson fell short of the level many expected him to reach. So what really kept him from taking that next step? What happened? Let's talk about it. Salute to Mr. Creative on IG for this request. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. Let's get it, man. Like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know who I should do next. Jason Richardson was a 6'6" shooting guard from Saginaw, Michigan, who became one of the most exciting athletes of his generation. At Arthur Hill High School, he was already known for his athleticism, but he still wasn't considered some can't-miss superstar prospect. He stayed in Michigan for college, joining Michigan State in 1999 under Tom Izzo, immediately landing on one of the best teams in the country. As a freshman, he came off the bench for a veteran Spartans team that went on to win the 2000 National Championship, giving him a ring before he ever became a full-time starter. His sophomore season was when his NBA potential became obvious. Richardson averaged 14.7 points and 5.9 rebounds, helped Michigan State reach another Final Four, and earned first-team All-Big Ten honors before declaring for the 2001 NBA Draft after just 2 seasons. Golden State selected him 5th overall, making him one of the centerpieces of a Warriors team desperately trying to rebuild. Richardson averaged 14.4 points as a rookie and quickly became known around the league for his explosiveness. He won the slam dunk contest in both 02 and 03, including one of the more memorable performances the event ever seen. But his game continued developing beyond the dunks. By his 4th season, he was averaging over 21 points, and in 05-06 he reached a career-high 23.2 while becoming a reliable 3-point shooter. The following year, he helped the Golden State's We Believe Warriors upset the 67-win Dallas Mavericks in the first round, finally giving the franchise its first playoff appearance in 13 years. Stunt number 1, athleticism dominated his identity. Jason Richardson's athleticism was obviously a gift, but I also think it changed the way people viewed him as a basketball player. In a way, it defined him and overshadowed his game. When he came into the league, there weren't many players more exciting in the open floor. He could finish over defenders, catch just about anything around the rim, and his back-to-back slam dunk contest wins made him nationally recognizable before he had accomplished much in the NBA. By 2003, you could make the argument that Richardson was known more for what he could do above the rim than what he could do during an actual NBA game. And while he eventually became much more than a dunker, I think those physical gifts sometimes made you think Richardson should become a much more accomplished player than he was. Because when you look at the stars he was competing with, most had something they could consistently fall back on when athleticism wasn't enough. Kobe could create any shot he wanted, Tracy McGrady had the handle and scoring package, not to mention the clutch gene to completely take over games, and Vince Carter eventually became a better shooter and playmaker than people give him credit for. Richardson developed into a good 3-point shooter himself, but he never became an elite ball handler, playmaker, or half-court shot creator. For his career, he averaged just 2.7 assists and only once averaged more than 3.5 in a season. He could score, but he wasn't necessarily someone you wanted controlling every possession of your offense. Even Richardson's best season shows the difference. In 05-06, he averaged 23.2 points, 5.8 rebounds, and shot 38.4% from 3. Those are borderline, if not sure, all-star numbers. But Golden State still won only 34 games, and Richardson wasn't the type of player whose individual greatness could overcome what was around him. That doesn't mean he was just an athlete. He worked himself into a legitimate scorer, improved tremendously as a shooter, and eventually made over 1,600 threes in his career. But his athleticism was so far ahead of everything else that it created expectations his overall game never quite reached. He'd make plays that looked superstar level. The problem was he couldn't impact games like a superstar consistently. Once you got beyond the dunks, highlights, and physical gifts, what remained was a very good shooting guard, but not the franchise-changing player his athletic ability made him appear capable of being. Stunt number 2, no all-star selection in his prime. That brings me to him never being selected as an all-star to solidify his game in his prime, especially because there was one season where he had a legitimate argument to make it. In 05-06, he was 25 years old, right in the middle of his prime, and having easily the best season of his career. His averages were up across the board that year, and he was in his 5th straight season playing at least 70 games. Those weren't empty numbers from someone taking 25 shots a night either. Richardson was becoming an efficient perimeter scorer, and at the All-Star break, he was already averaging around 22 points per game. The problem was he was trying to earn that recognition in a Western Conference where there was almost no room for another guard. The West guards selected that year were Steve Nash, Kobe Bryant, Ray Allen, and Tony Parker. Nash was the reigning MVP and would win it again that season. Kobe was averaging over 35 points, Allen was still one of the league's best shooters and scorers, and Parker was having a breakout year for a Spurs team chasing 60 wins. Richardson wasn't losing his spot to players having questionable seasons. He was competing against established stars who were either putting up better numbers, winning significantly more games, or both. Golden State being 24-29 entering the break didn't help either. Richardson was producing, but the Warriors were headed toward another losing season and eventually finished 34-48. When you're trying to break into your first All-Star game, putting up good numbers on a losing team makes it much harder to separate yourself. But that's also why this season stands out so much when judging his career. This was probably his best opportunity. He was healthy, entering his prime, his scoring had reached another level, and his three-point shot had become a real weapon. Yet, even with everything coming together, he still wasn't quite good enough to force his way into that group, and after that, the opportunity never really came again. His scoring dropped the following season. Golden State traded him to Charlotte in 07, and although he would average 21.8 points his first year there, he never reached 20 again. He had an all-star caliber season, he just happened to have it at a time when an all-star caliber season wasn't necessarily enough to actually become one. Stunt number 3, becoming a lesser option. After 6 seasons in Golden State, Jason Richardson was traded to Charlotte in 07, and initially it looked like a fresh start might give him another opportunity to establish himself. In his first season with the Bobcats, he averaged almost 22 points, led the team in scoring, and made a league-high 243 three-pointers. But once again, the individual production didn't lead anywhere. Charlotte won just 32 games and missed the playoffs. Richardson remained their leading scorer early the following season before being traded to Phoenix, and that move really represents the second half of his career. He was finally getting opportunities to play meaningful basketball, but he was no longer being asked to be the main guy. In Phoenix, Richardson joined Steve Nash and Amari Stoudemire, and by 09-10, the Suns were one of the best teams in the West. Richardson still averaged 15.7 points and actually raised that to 19.8 during their playoff run, helping Phoenix reach the Western Conference Finals. But this was clearly Nash and Stoudemire's team. Even around Richardson were players like Grant Hill and a deep group of contributors that made Phoenix dangerous without requiring him to carry them every night. He was finally winning, but his individual place in the league was becoming smaller. That continued when Phoenix traded him to Orlando during the 10-11 season. Richardson joined a team built around Dwight Howard, with players like Jameer Nelson, Hedo Turkoglu, and later Ryan Anderson taking significant offensive responsibility. He remained a starter and useful scorer, but by then Richardson had gone from someone averaging over 20 points and trying to become an all-star to a complimentary piece on a playoff team. And unfortunately, his body began breaking down right as his role was already declining. After being traded to Philadelphia in 2012, Richardson suffered a serious knee injury that required surgery and caused him to miss the entire 13-14 season. He returned in 2015 of the 2014-15 season, played just 19 games, and that was basically it. He'd signed with Atlanta later that year, but retired before the season at only 34 years old. That's the strange balance of Jason Richardson's career. When he had the freedom to put up his best numbers, he wasn't winning. When he finally started winning, he was no longer the player teams were building around. And before he had an opportunity to extend his career as a veteran contributor, injuries helped make the decision for him. All in all, Jason Richardson had a very good NBA career, but I understand why many say he fell short of what you would expect from the 5th overall pick with his level of athleticism and talent. He played 13 NBA seasons, averaged over 17 points for his career, became one of the best dunkers of his generation, developed into a reliable three-point shooter, and eventually experienced some playoff success. But he never made an all-star team, never made All-NBA, and was never able to establish himself as one of the elite players at his position. His athleticism became his identity early, but the rest of his career never developed enough to make him a true franchise player. And when Richardson was finally placed on better teams in Phoenix and Orlando, he was more valuable as a secondary option than someone those teams depended on to lead them. Injuries eventually shortened what could have been a few more productive seasons, but by then his place in the league was already clear. Richardson was good enough to have a long career and memorable enough that people still remember the dunks today. But did he reach the level his talent, draft position, and early excitement suggested he might? Salute, much respect, but for these reasons, his growth was stunted. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth, and I'm out.